I'm very, very, very hopeful of tonight's game. I mean, we've gotten a really bad stretch of Thursday night football, and tonight feels like it could be a good one. Even though CJ Stroud's not playing, I mean, it's his third game without CJ Stroud in Houston, and I do think that this one has potential still. I think that the Bills are one of those teams that could be hot and cold anytime, and one thing we all know is that the Texans have one of the best defenses in the NFL. And so I think that they have a chance to really get after Josh Allen tonight. And I also think that I think that's their only way to win, to be honest with you. I think the Texans' only path to victory tonight is if they make it a lower scoring affair and if their defense does well against Josh Allen. That's really the only path that I could see for a victory tonight. So I'm very curious to watch tonight's game, and I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of start-sit decisions we'll go through today as well. So we'll go ahead and just start getting through things. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support, and make sure to start a start-sit poll on FS Roundup. You get live feedback and results from everybody, and it's completely free to do these start-sit polls. So let's just get right into it right now. Chuludo, good to see you in here, man. What's going on with you? Rushing yard, 428. Burrow or Brissett? Yeah, I think I saw that exact poll on FS Roundup. And listen, here was what I said on today's quarterback video, is that I think that it can be really easy for us to forget certain things when there's hype generated around a player. And just think about like every year when the start of the year hits, right? Every year everybody's excited and hyped about a player that they believe in. And Joe Burrow obviously is great. But what I will say about Joe Burrow is that, you have to factor in that every year of his career, he has started out slow. And that happened at the beginning of this year until he went down. And now basically he's kind of restarting that process over again. I mean, the guy has missed the last 3 months basically of football. So you kind of have to factor in like, hey, is there a chance that he starts out really slow again? That's what I'm factoring in at least. And it's a game without Jamar Chase. I just think that a lot of things could go wrong. Jacoby Brissett, I've said this throughout the whole week. I really do think this one has a chance to be close. I really do think they have a chance to make it a competitive game. So I do prefer Jacoby Brissett because he's done nothing also other than put up 20 points. What's Burrow's ceiling in a game without Jamar against the Patriots defense? Probably not much more than 23. So I'd rather take the safety with the combined ceiling that's very similar with Jacoby Brissett. Jeremy Torres, what's going on? Good to see you in here. A.J. Brown or Rome? Yeah, I've got to go Rome. There's just no chance I'm not going Rome over A.J. A.J. just, I mean, the guy's been a content machine as far as like, if you're a news reporter or if you're one of those people like Dov Kleiman, on X, and it's like you're just constantly looking for sound bites. A.J. Brown's been a gold mine this year, right? Like, he's been all over the place, and he just did another one today. I saw that he was asked about, like, hey, do you think you're the same player this year that you were last year? And his response was, well, I guess if that's the case, then Saquon's not the same player either. So he's just, like, I feel like he didn't mean harm by that to Saquon. I think that was his way of saying, like, the offense sucks. But, I mean, it's a never-ending issue. And Philly is trying to appease him right now by trying to give him a bunch of targets, but it's not working. So, yeah, for me, like, Rome is definitely by default, Rome has to be the play. And I think Rome has a ceiling this week. I'm not as worried. Like, Jalen Ramsey does not factor in to corners who I worry about. I was hearing someone else talk about that today. I'm not nearly as worried about that. Jose Valdez, good to see you. Chaludo says, riding with Schultz, you could do a lot worse than that. That's for sure. Alexis Bolanos, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. With Ladd on the bye, I need a wide receiver too. Do I roll with Higgins tonight or risk it with a hurt Slayton? That's tough, man. What are your other options outside of that? If these are your only two options, I think your answer is there, which is you got to roll with Higgins, right? Like, Jaden Higgins is not someone I've been big on, but I will say this. Houston clearly is trying to make him their number one receiver. All these numbers we're going through, by the way, completely free on FS Roundup. We got the comparison feature figured out as well. So you can look at the last 2 games from Jaden, and he's had 7 targets in the previous week, and then week 10 he also had 7 targets. Like, at the very least, what they're trying to do is make him their wide receiver too. So I'm curious what else you have, and if you don't have anything else, the answer is kind of right there in front of you, unfortunately. And I'll be honest, like, I'm going to plug these guys in. They're really not that far off, in my opinion, in my rankings. I definitely prefer Slayton. Like, if it were, they're actually 1 spot difference, and Higgins is higher. This is because, like I said, I really do see Jaden Higgins and that target share going up, and it's because they really want him to be their wide receiver too. So actually, in all scenarios, I'm going to back my rankings, and I'll play Jaden Higgins over Darius Slayton. The comparison feature, that's a premium feature, but all the numbers that we're going to go through, those are all free on the site. Appreciate the super chat. That is how you jump the line and get your question answered immediately. We'll go back up to the top here, though. Jeremy Torres, roof up, baby. Roundup. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, we got the roof up today, that's for sure. We're actually getting good rain here in Central Texas, which has been a while. So kind of enjoying the rain right now as well. So roofs are important too. Joe Blacko, what's going on? Sit 1. Marks, Judkins, Brees, Pittman. I don't think it's particularly close. Like, I'm playing Pittman for sure, and I'm also going to play Judkins. What it comes down to is Woody versus Brees. And the only reason, like, Woody is higher this week is because I see an opportunity there in that matchup tonight versus Buffalo. But at the same time, if they start getting blown out, it could get a little bit bad. But Woody is a pass-catching back. So I'm going to plug him in with Brees Hall, and I'll show you kind of what the comparison feature thinks. They're exactly 1 spot difference in my rankings. It's so funny. A lot of people come in the live streams, they ask me questions on deciding between 2 guys that are like back-to-back in my rankings. That's what Brees and Woody are. I've got Brees 1 spot over Woody Marks, which is exactly the way I would lean. So it's a gut call when it's this close. Everyone who's with me on a frequent basis on live streams knows that when there's a 1 spot difference in my rankings, it's a complete gut call. And for me, Brees is just a more explosive guy, and we know he has a 30-point ceiling. We haven't really seen that ceiling from Woody since like week 5. So not really convinced that tonight's the night we'll see that massive upside game. I think if anything, he can give you 15. He can give you 17 maybe tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with my gut, and I'll go Brees Hall. So I will sit Woody Marks. Real happy? What's going on? Need your advice. Do I choose George Kittle or Tyler Warren as my tight end for the playoffs? My playoffs are week 14 through 17, and Kittle's on bye week 14. So I'd pick up another tight end like Brenton Strange that week. I'll give you a personal anecdote of mine. So I am also in a league that has playoffs starting week 14. I hate it. I've tried to advocate that we get out of that business and just move it to week 15. They're reluctant to do that. It's a bunch of old timers, man. So they like the week 14 situation. Well, the problem is I'm in first place in that league, and I've got Christian McCaffrey, who's also on that same bye week. And I've also got Travion Henderson coming up the ranks in that same bye week as well. So I actually made the decision in that league to where I want to move off of McCaffrey for certain guys. Not everybody. I'm not going to trade McCaffrey for Quinshon Judkins, but I'm trying to trade McCaffrey for Jonathan Taylor. I thought about an offer for Jahmyr Gibbs. Didn't end up going with it. But I get the struggle. And so I think what you have to factor in is the bye weeks are huge. And I don't know what that looks like for you, because week 14 through 17 kind of indicates to me that maybe it's a tournament style type of, or not a tournament style, an accumulative score type of playoffs because a lot of times when playoffs start week 14, it's like you get 2 weeks against one opponent, and then your next opponent you get 2 weeks as well. So if it's one of those, I'm fine with sticking with Kittle because Kittle will only be out 1 week. But if it's not and it's tournament style and you have to beat like your opponent one time to move on, then I have trouble not going with Warren here because Warren is already close enough to Kittle to where I'm like, I could justify it one way or the other. I do prefer Kittle if they're both available for the entirety of the season, but of course that's not the case. So I do think that if you have to choose between one, I definitely am leaning towards Warren, but I would stick with Kittle if your system was a cumulative scoring through 2 weeks against one opponent. Does that make sense? Like, I've been in leagues like that. I'm sure other people have been in leagues like that where it's 2 weeks versus one opponent. So your scores run, they run on each other for 2 weeks. So if that's the case, I'm fine keeping Kittle. Julian Sanchez, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Flex, Woody, Emmanuel Wilson, or Shakir? So this one is actually relatively easy. I'm going to go with Woody. And because when I look at Wilson, right, like Wilson in theory should be the Green Bay running back one if Josh Jacobs doesn't go. I don't believe Josh Jacobs will go. I don't rule out the potential of Chris Brooks that we see some of. And I also just don't think it's a good matchup. Minnesota is tough. And I will continue to stand by that. Minnesota's a tough defense, man. They really are. And so I think what it comes down to is people have just forgotten about how good that defense is because the offense looks terrible right now. And by the way, this J.J. McCarthy thing, like, I was called kind of weird when I said, yeah, I'm not sure if J.J. McCarthy is actually injured or not. Like, I think they benched him. And people were like, dude, you're crazy. Like, that's a crazy conspiracy theory. Well, I guess score 25,000, 17,000 for conspiracy theorists because, I mean, I think J.J. McCarthy, this thing is weird. And I just think my point is that without getting too off track, the defense is great. Like, that defense is very good. So I don't trust Green Bay's backfield this week. And with Shakir tonight, I actually just saw that he had a baby, which congratulations to Khalil Shakir. That's fantastic news. Someone had tweeted out, like, I'm calling it. He's getting a touchdown tonight. So I did find that interesting. I'm not sure if I'm with that. Khalil Shakir was a little sketchy last week because of the fact that he was totally phased out of a game where they put up 40 points. Like, that was concerning. And this week there is a massive problem with this matchup because that defense is really tough. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Woody tonight. I think he's got the best combo of matchup because I also feel like he's got a little bust proof to him right now because if you look at the past several games, they are making the switch. Like, Woody Marks is that dominant lead back at this point. And so when you look at the split, 46 snaps compared to 18, even if they're not able to run the ball much and they're down and they're trailing, well, they're going to throw the ball to Woody Marks a bunch. So, yeah, I think Woody Marks is the play for me. Appreciate the super chat. G Medina, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Hey, Ryan, full PPR. Flex Marks, Swift, or Jennings? So Jennings to me is out. Maybe this will be the last week I stop really just like throwing Jennings in the trash. I've seen a lot of people argue with me how I'm very like quick to dismiss Juwan Jennings' impact. Maybe you're right? Like I think that there's merit there, but I will say this is going to be if Jennings does well again and Ricky doesn't do much, that would maybe make me think about switching. But I'm going to say no Jennings for now because I definitely like Swift better than I like Jennings. And so when it comes to Jennings versus Woody, let's put it into the comparison feature on FS Roundup right now. So Swift outranks Woody by 2 spots. So again, very close enough to be the gut call, right? It's a very, very clear gut call for me, but my gut leans towards Swift. And the reason it does is because Swift is still the lead back, and he's on a really good offense with a good offensive line. Like, the Bears' rushing attack has really found its groove since the bye week, and the Steelers' defense just does not scare me. So, yeah, I think for me personally, I would much rather go with Swift. Appreciate the super chat. Julian Sanchez, appreciate the super chat. Thoughts on London now? Very, very eerie. I don't trust this whole situation. I mean, let's look at it closer, right? Like, Drake London has already been ruled out, obviously, for this week. But, I mean, London is expected to, like, there's no guarantee that he comes back the following week either. So it's not just like, oh, he's going to miss this game and then he'll be back the next week. This is very, very quickly becoming an uncertain timeline. And my also thought on that, so the injury already knocks him down pegs for me, right? Because in theory, if he came back in week 13, then we would have to address the second problem I have, which is Kirk Cousins. I said this to someone in response to when I ranked the quarterbacks and tight ends today. I had someone ask me, where's Kyle Pitts? And I told them, I said, Kirk Cousins needs to prove to me that he's not Mermaid Man right now. Like, I mean, that's like how I feel. I mean, does anyone get that reference? Like Mermaid Man from SpongeBob, where he, like, the old man who, like, falls down. Like, that's what Kirk Cousins is to me. So I need to be proven otherwise, because what I've seen from Kirk has been abysmal. I mean, it's like a joke. So even if London comes back, Penix is going to leave a void. Like, I don't think Penix was great, but he's better than Kirk. So London, to me, let's just assume that he comes back in week 13. Rest of the season, I view him as like a middle tier wide receiver 2. At best. Like, realistically, I need to see him play with Kirk first for me to rank him much higher than a middle tier wide receiver 2. And if we get to next week and we hear that London is still not practicing and we're not sure when he's coming back, you can't view him as much more than a low-end wide receiver 2 or a high-end wide receiver 3. That's my thoughts on him right now. Appreciate the super chat. Alexis Bolanos, good to see you back. I can also do Boutte. So, yeah, back to that. Higgins or Slayton. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say I would lean with Jaden Higgins. I did have Kayshon Boutte ranked in my top 30, but I will say that off of the bye week, or not off the bye week, off of the injury, missing 2 games, I'll probably want to roll with a player that is getting 7 targets a game the last 2 games against the soft defense. And I get it, Kayshon's matchup is great too, but you know, Boutte has just never been a target guy. Like, you can go through his entire game log this year. It's been a bunch of like 5 targets or 6 targets at max, and then he'll get like 3 or 2 targets the next game or 1 target. So I'd rather stay away from the injured player and play Jaden Higgins. Again, appreciate the super chat. IO 2004. Appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here. Question in the chat, big dog. Thanks, and who to flex? Okay, let's go back to it. A guy dropped Burrow a long time ago, and I picked him up and dropped Bo and went with Brissett. Now he wants me to send Bo and Woody for Burrow. He wants to send me Bo and Woody for Burrow. I got Rico, Swift, Monty, Benson, Tucker, Tootin, Igbuka, Collins, London, 5 and 6. Yeah, to me, to me, that's not really good enough. If I have Burrow, I'm capitalizing on his name. And especially with the positive reports that are coming out. I mean, because use the reports that are coming out to your advantage. If you have Joe Burrow, this is a public service announcement to anybody who has Joe Burrow. If you have Burrow, use the news to your advantage. Because it looks like he has a legitimate possibility to play this week. So this is when healthy, top 6 fantasy quarterback we're talking about here. do not accept anything less than value. And to me, that's not value. Like, you dropped a guy, Bo Nix, and now he's offering him to give you back. And along with Woody Marks, who I view as a long-term, lower-end RB2. Like, if he was offering me Bo Nix and Quinshon Judkins or Javonte Williams, I'd feel much more inclined to take that, or Travion Henderson, but that's not good enough. Like, I need the upside, and I don't really feel like I'm getting that with Woody Marks. And I know that Burrow, on his best, if Burrow comes back and he's ready to go, he's already a better fantasy quarterback than Bo Nix. So, like, if you're going to send me Bo Nix, you need to send me somebody else who has real value, because that's just not the equivalent. Like, Joe Burrow, you need to use this news to your advantage. So do not undersell him for just that. That is not enough. Who to flex? So you're asking me who to flex between. You're asking me who to flex between Burrow and Brissett? If that's the case, I talked about this earlier tonight, which is that I will definitely personally go with Brissett. I'll give Burrow the first week back to sit on the bench and see what it looks like. I really do think it's easy to forget, especially in the middle of the season. Like, when a player that's that great comes back from injury, you assume he resumes greatness. That's not always the case. I think Joe Burrow will have a week where, in his first game back, whenever that is, if it's this week or if it's next week, I think that he will have a bad week. So I'm personally going to go ahead and play Brissett. And if that's I want to make sure that's the question. Because if it's these options, Rico, Swift, Monty, Benson, Tucker, Tuden, Egbuka, and Collins, and London, I would personally flex. If I only had to choose one, I would personally flex Collins. I'd flex Nico tonight. But FYI, do not put any Thursday night players in the flex. Always make sure they're in their proper positional spots. Again, man, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. J.E., what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Start 3, full PPR, Marks, Genty, Chase Brown, Judkins. So, Judkins is going in, Chase Brown's going in, and Genty's going in. Marks is out. It's not that hard for me, to be honest, because Judkins, again, matchup is a big part of this. Against the Raiders, I just want in on that. Like, the Raiders, I mean, the Browns are a failing team too, but the Raiders defense, man, like, they give up everything from every different angle. So I do think that you've got to take advantage of matchup here. It's just it's a team that's not well run right now. And when it comes to Genty in that same matchup, Cleveland's defense is tough. Their run defense is a little weak. Not as tough as you might think, but they still are a good defense. But the good thing is that I think even against Dallas, where they gave him like 8 carries, in theory, like, you'd think like 8 carries, he's getting like not many points. I mean, he ended up doing fine because they gave him the receiving upside too. So either way, Ashton Genty's a relatively safe play. And then Chase Brown provides the upside as well. The matchup is not ideal for running backs, but he also gets pass catching upside. So either way, if it's Burrow or if it's Flacco, it's going to be one of those games where you could count on a bunch of receiving work because they have no Jamar. Appreciate the super chat. Bisco, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Trade away London, maybe him +1 for Nico, Egbuka, or Jefferson. My wide receivers are CD, Waddle, Tet, Pearsall. Running backs, Achane, Cook, Judkins, RJ Harvey. So at this point, I will definitely take Nico or Egbuka for Drake London. Justin Jefferson, I'm not sold on that yet. Because again, this is just a broader conversation. Everybody knows my feelings about Justin Jefferson. They're not great, just if you haven't seen them, they're not great feelings. I do have lots of issues with JJ. Not the player. It's all because of his quarterback. But that still matters to me. And so I definitely have to factor that into my decision because I don't view him as this like bulletproof guy that you could ride with moving forward as your like high-end wide receiver too. Like London, if he comes back, I still believe he could be a high-end wide receiver too. I don't believe that JJ can. So there's more belief in the uncertainty with Drake London than there is with the certainty of what JJ is. If that makes any sense, right? Because that got kind of weird, but like, I believe that Drake London can still come back after injury with Kirk Cousins and be a better wide receiver for fantasy than I believe Justin Jefferson could be in his current situation. So I would take Nico, I would take Egbuka, but I would not take JJ. Whichever one you could get, great. If you could get both of them, I prefer Egbuka. That's the way I look at it. Appreciate the super chat. Well, actually, yeah, let's look at the other part of it, which is him +1 for. So yeah, I was gonna say it does sound a little weird if you could just do a 1-to-1 trade. So for me personally, I would take London, and I would try to take someone like or Ricky Pearsall maybe, and try to get Egbuka or Nico Collins. That's what I would try to do first. And if they want to get someone else, the next guy I would offer is Harvey. But if I gave Harvey, I would want like a Woody Marks in return, or somebody like maybe even Kyle Monangai in return. That's what I would try to do. Appreciate the super chat. Adrian, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Hey Ryan, I'm gonna risk with Walker this week instead of James Cook. Whoa. Tough matchup, gut feeling. Go with your gut. Go with your gut. I would say it's a little ill-advised, but go with your gut. Could Gabe Davis be a sleeper? It's funny that you asked me that because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think you asked me about this last week too. I think you did. And I think, listen, I mean, Gabe Davis is big game Gabe. Like, that's what he is called in Buffalo because he's had good games. So, like, tonight, primetime matchup, tough opponent. They need to win. Like, I could see him doing well tonight. And I'll tell you a story on that, which is that I personally, I did a primetime draft on Underdog today. And I drafted, so the primetime Palooza, I think is what it's called. And it's like $8,000 to first place. And I drafted Gabe Davis in the hopes that he could give us that. Now, long term, I will say this. You're going to have to factor in that at some point, Keon, I would bet, returns. And Gabe Davis has been floating off the practice squad and on the active roster. So, like, for example, they bumped him down to the practice squad after Sunday's game. And now he's getting bumped up to the active roster again tonight because Keon's not going. So long term, I would say a little tougher to see that, to be honest with you, because I believe Keon will be back at some point. But for tonight, I do think he's a sleeper. Yes, I do. Appreciate the super chat, man. Michael Merowitz, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Pick up Schultz or Fant to start over Ferg. Start 3. Pearsall, Michael Wilson, Woody, Addison. Woody or Emmanuel Wilson. Thanks for the team review, brother. Always, man. I love doing team breakdowns. You guys always can get a team breakdown from me if you want to. All you have to do is go to the page, email me at fsroundup@gmail.com, and then once the payment goes through, I'll break down your team in a live stream. Lots of fun doing them. So, Schultz or Fant to start over Ferg. Yeah, I discussed this on today's quarterback and tight end rankings. I have issues with Jake Ferguson moving forward. And in this game, I do have issues because I really do think that it could be a game that's similar to the game they played against the Broncos where Ferguson blanked. Well, what was the one reason that Ferguson blanked in that game? Is because Denver's pass rush is so freaking great that Jake Ferguson didn't, like, they couldn't afford to just have their tight end run multiple routes in the game. So they had to get him back in pass protection a ton. And so it took away from the routes that he was able to run. Philly's defense is really starting to pick up on the pass rush. So I do think that there's a chance that Ferguson has a tougher game, and he's lower ranked in my rankings this week as a result. So yeah, I think personally, if it was me, I would personally, I don't know what your roster situation is. I don't remember from last night what we went through, and I don't have it with me to pull it up. So I don't think I can advise you to just drop someone willy-nilly, because if I remember correctly, your team is stacked. So, like, there's not really room for me. There's not really room for you to, like, just drop a player and pick up one of these guys for 1 week. Like, if you had it, like, if Tyler Warren was out there, and I know that would never happen, but, like, just for example, if Tyler Warren was out there, I could see myself being like, yeah, like, drop Gadsden, or drop someone else like Sutton, I remember you have. But that's not your scenario. Like, your team is so stacked and it's got so much depth that I don't feel like the right move would be telling you to drop someone. So I don't think I would do it. I think I would just stick it out with Ferguson. But if I'm wrong and you can drop someone comfortably, then yeah, I mean, the guy I would prefer is Schultz. Start 3, Pearsall, Michael Wilson, Woody, or Addison. I will go with Michael Wilson for sure. I'll go with, I mean, it's really easy. Addison's not going in my lineup. Like, I think it's just, this is a tough conversation, guys. I think Minnesota pass catchers are really in for a rough, like, remainder of the year. This whole week I've been telling you guys, like, cut the BS, right? Like, on my channel, I have felt myself, you know, hearing a lot of backlash and being like, maybe I'm wrong. And I always like to question things and, you know, take you guys' voice into account. That's why I want to build a community, not just an audience. But I will say this, sometimes too much of that gets in my head and I stop, you know, pushing the limit. And for me, like, I've got to just be honest about everything. And the way I feel is that every Vikings pass catcher outside of JJ or Justin Jefferson is really not rosterable. Like, and don't hear what I'm not saying. Jordan Addison has value. So, like, trade him, but I don't want him on my team. I don't want TJ Hawkinson on my team. Justin Jefferson, only I want him because he has tons of value as a name, and he does get a lot of targets. So, like, Jordan Addison, I'm not playing him. And maybe I get crapped on this week, but I'll tell you what, man. Jordan Addison got in the end zone last week, and he only got, like, 10 points. You could see it. Like, he had 7 targets, and 5 of those targets were, like, 1,000 feet. Like, they hit the Empire State Building. Like, J.J. McCarthy sucks, and he can't deliver anything for Vikings players. So I'm benching Addison for sure. And then Woody or Emmanuel Wilson. I'm going to go with Woody. I did, like I said, I think I answered this one already tonight. Woody for me is pretty easy because of the fact that I think that his upside is a little higher. His matchup is better tonight versus the Bills. He's also a receiving back, so if both teams, in theory, got blown out, well, he's going to be able to salvage the week with receiving upside. Now, Green Bay's not going to get blown out by the Vikings. Like, that's not going to happen. But Wilson doesn't have the pass-catching upside that Woody Marks does. So I'll go with Woody. Appreciate the super chat. Nathan, what's going on, man? Good to see you in here. Appreciate your super chat. Nathan Hilton says, happy Thursday. Right back at you, man. Drop the Texans defense for Raiders, Saints, 49ers, Bears, or Eagles. I can grab the Bills, but trying to avoid Thursday defenses cheering for offense upside. That's an interesting perspective. Listen, I've for a long stretch of the year, I was saying I don't like Thursday defenses because it's not been good. we've been revived the last several weeks. I think a lot of it is because there just been like blowouts and low scoring games. But I mean, point being, you can play defenses on Thursday night, and the Texans to me is still a good play. I was texting a buddy earlier today, and he's a Texans fan. So I was texting him, and he was telling me that, the Bills are going to pretty easily beat us today. And I was saying, well, why? Because, the Texans' defense is really good. The Bills have had their own struggles. I'm not sure about that. And he was saying, I don't think that this is the game we win. We've got some upsets in us this year. This is not that week. And that one hit home for me because I trust his opinion, particularly with the Texans. So I will say, I don't have a problem with going against the Texans. I will say this. I wouldn't drop them. They're too valuable of a defense to drop. And they've got some favorable matchups coming up. They still get to play, I think they get to play Tennessee again. Let's check on the Texans' schedule really quick. Texans play the Colts the following week, and I do think off a long week that could be good for them. They get the Chiefs, not ideal, but not impossible. They get the Raiders in the playoffs, and they get the Chargers and the Cardinals in the playoffs as well. Bottom line is, I don't think I'm going to be dropping the Texans. If I went against them, I would just hold on to the Texans defense, and I would pivot to probably the Bears defense against the Steelers with Mason Rudolph. That's probably what I would do if I moved off the Texans defense, but I'm not dropping them. That's my opinion. Appreciate the super chat, man. Good to talk to you. The Great. What's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Woody Marks or Pittman as the flex, full PPR. Also, would you drop Monangai? I do have Jones Sr., Genty, Bucky Irving as running backs. I'm not going to drop Monangai. I said this. I've said this a lot over the last several weeks. I think Monangai is one of those few running backs that is a running back 2 right now. Well, he is a running back 2. There's no air quotes and needed in that one. I think he's one of the few running back 2s that has upside to become his team's running back 1. We saw Travion just do it. Hopefully, he is going to stick around as the running back 1. And Monangai, to me, Ben Johnson clearly likes him, and he's carving out a role as a red zone back. So he has every week upside. Monangai is not a drop to me, unless you're in an 8-man league where you're so stacked. But given that you have Aaron Jones, I don't view Aaron Jones that much higher than I view Monangai. So I'm not dropping Monangai. Woody or Pittman as the flex? I'll go with Pittman pretty easily because Pittman is a guy that just from an efficiency perspective, the offense has been too good this year. And he has been consistently involved in most weeks enough to justify viewing him as a pretty high-end wide receiver too. So Pittman to me is the play over Woody this week. And like I said, Woody is a guy that Woody's just a guy that I think has a ceiling because his offensive line is no good. Even if he gets 8 catches for 50 yards tonight, that'll be fine. But I don't see him having potentially more than 40 rushing yards. So I don't know. I'll go with Pittman personally. Appreciate the super chat. Woodchuck's Fantasy Football. What's going on? Good to see you in here tonight. Worth rostering Fairbairn and Dicker or cut one for upside stats like Garrett Wilson, Darnell Mooney, Brenton Strange, Ollie Gordon, Gabe Davis to the Jags defense. You own the Texans. So in most situations, I always say, rostering 2 or more defenses, quarterbacks, tight ends, not really as much in favor. And the same applies with kickers, even more so. I don't want to keep 2 kickers on my roster. It doesn't make a bunch of sense to me. So, yes, drop one. And if I'm dropping one, it's going to be Dicker, and Dicker's great. Maybe one of the worthwhile things to do is package him in a trade and send them to somebody else so you can get some return. Because the moment you drop either one of them, they'll get picked up. But to me personally, I think Fairbairn is the guy that you want long term. I do. He's just been better. So for me, the obvious one is going to be Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson, I know he went to the IR, I think. 1 or 2 weeks ago. Let's look this up again. So he missed week 11. He'll miss this week. And then he'll miss 13 and 14 at minimum. So he could come back for your fantasy playoffs. And if that happens, then yes, Garrett Wilson is definitely the upside play I would want to shoot for. So, yeah, to me, Garrett Wilson is the guy, followed by Mooney, followed by probably Gabe Davis. I don't view Ollie Gordon or Brenton Strange as much of a I don't view Ollie Gordon or Brenton Strange as much of an upside play. Appreciate the super chat, man. Daniel Medina, what's going on in here tonight? Worth starting Khalil Shakir or Alec Pierce? I'd go Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce to me is a guy that should be viewed higher than he is. I really do view him as a pretty solid wide receiver too. And Shakir, let's just look through the game log with Pierce this year, right? Because I think it will shock a lot of people. Week 10, he had 18.4 fantasy points with 7 targets. Week 9, he had 17.5 with 11 targets. Week 8, he had 5 targets, 8.9. So that's a lower game. Week 7, 14.8 fantasy points with 10 targets. Week 6, 6.8 points, 4 targets. Week 5, didn't play. Week 4, didn't play. Week 3, 10.7 fantasy points on 5 targets. Every game that he's played, he's basically had a higher floor than Khalil Shakir. That's just kind of the reality of it. So Khalil Shakir last week, I will say, I've largely been a pro Khalil Shakir guy over the offseason and over the season. But last week was a little bit of an eye-opener. I mean, they scored 44 points, and he was irrelevant in that game. I mean, he had 9 targets. Or I'm sorry, that was the wrong game. He had 3 targets in that game, and the only ball he caught was 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Not good enough. So he can get phased out more than Pierce can. I'm going to go ahead and play Alec Pierce. Appreciate the super chat. All right, let's go back up to the top here. Go through as many free questions as we can. Jerome Bunchy says start Michael Wilson or Emmanuel Wilson. I'll go Michael Wilson pretty easily. I think that Michael Wilson is a guy that you can't ignore what happened last week with all the targets that he got. And I was definitely wrong about him not being a beneficiary of Marvin being gone. As soon as Marvin left, he got 18 targets. I mean, you can't overlook that. I don't think he's going to get 18 targets again this week. I think that was a product of throwing 57 passes that day, which is what Brissett did. But you can't ignore 18 targets. He's going to get at least 9 in this game. Whereas Emmanuel Wilson, again, I've got my issues with Emmanuel Wilson this week. Matthew Lynn trading Josh Allen for Hurts and Flowers. Is that worth it? No. I don't think that's worth it. Keep Josh Allen. Josh Allen, it's kind of like I was saying, someone asked me a question earlier in the evening about trading Joe Burrow away, and I'm okay with the idea. And trading Josh Allen, I actually suggested that to someone I did a team breakdown on. they paid me for a team breakdown, and they asked me about moves to make their team better. And I said, you should trade Josh Allen off your team. We can balance the team better. Now, they didn't need to do it in the end because he stacked his team in a different way. But, yeah, to me, like, Josh Allen is not a guy you just give away willy-nilly. And, like, I wouldn't say this is willy-nilly, but Hurts is not the player, obviously, that Allen is for fantasy. And Flowers is not, it doesn't provide enough star power. Like, if I'm trading Allen, it's got to be for someone in, like, high-end running back or wide receiver 2 category, or wide receiver 1 or 2, or running back 1 category. So that's not enough. That's not enough. RJ Bacani, appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here. Jacoby or Daniel Jones? I'll go Jacoby. I do not trust Daniel Jones this week against the Chiefs. I really think he's going to struggle. I think that they're going to make him look like the werewolf that he is with the Giants. And I think there's going to be certain games like that will make Daniel Jones look really bad, and I think this is one of them. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll have to, like, here's something. This is a critical week for the Chiefs. It's a huge week. Nobody disputes that. So if they lose this game and Daniel Jones looks good, I'm going to have to come on here and I'm going to have to reshape my thoughts about the Chiefs moving forward. As we stand right now, I am going to continue to believe the Chiefs are good. And it's now that they're going to turn things up. So I personally prefer Jacoby Brissett, who has been a consistent 20-point machine. And in his best weeks, that's what Daniel Jones has been, and I don't think this is his best week. Appreciate the super chat, man. Okay, nice guy. What's going on? Should I risk Shavers or start either Godwin or A.D. Mitchell? I am personally risking Shavers. Shavers, let's line up. So Godwin I'm not thinking about. Even if he does come back, whatever. I do not need the stress of deciding to play him. I just don't need that. So I'm not doing that. So I'm going to line up Shavers with Adonai Mitchell just to show you guys the rankings a little bit. And Tyrell Shavers, to me, is a better play by about 13 spots. I've got Tyrell Shavers 13 spots above Adonai Mitchell in my rankings. And I'll back the rankings up on this one because I do think that Tyrell Shavers is in position to where he's got a better quarterback situation, and that just matters for everything. Like, Adonai Mitchell, I actually do view as a guy who's interesting. I really do. But I personally think of Tyrell Shavers as a legitimate big play threat in this offense. I mean, we saw it last week. We've seen it in previous weeks. Tyrell Shavers, especially without Keon Coleman, is not irrelevant. He is not. So I'd personally risk it with Tyrell Shavers. Daniel Medina, good to see you back here. Start Jackson Dart, Joe Burrow, or Jared Goff. I am going to go with Jackson Dart. Yeah, it comes down to, do I believe that Burrow is ready? And no, I don't. I don't believe that he's ready. Now, Goff and Dart are back-to-back my rankings. If you did not see the quarterback and tight end rankings today, I would say go watch them. They are very close, and they're not close. They're back-to-back in my rankings. So I could definitely see a world where Goff has a better game because, again, Detroit off a loss, you don't want to mess with that. Like, Detroit off a loss, that's a tough team to play. So, in theory, Dart could have a bad game, but also, I don't see that theory because Dart has done nothing but do good as well. And not just do Jacoby Brissett good. He's been able to give 30-point games against some of the best because he runs. So, to me, Dart is the best play, followed by Goff, who I'd play over Burrow. And again, I just don't think Burrow's ready. I don't. I think Burrow is in position to where he's going to struggle in his first game back. Appreciate the super chat, man. Matt Donovan, good to see you in here. Weeks 14 and 15 are the playoffs. 8-man league, and I'm the number 1 seed. Help me pick 2 for flex options. McConkey, Harvey, Devonta Smith, and Woody Marks. Interesting format, week 14 and 15 in the playoffs. That's a very interesting format. I'm assuming we're asking about this week. So if that assumption is correct, the 2 flex options, I've got to go with wait, no, so it's not, because Ladd is not playing. Week 14 and 15. You're going to need, I need you to specify what weeks are we talking about, because I'm not sure what weeks we're talking about here. If we're talking about like week 14, I can't imagine benching Ladd either way. I really can't. Like, Ladd is probably going to end up being a play for me. The Chargers playing the Eagles. I don't care. I'm going to play Ladd. And if it was Harvey or Marks, Woody Marks, week 14, plays the Chiefs. I don't love that. And then Harvey plays the Raiders. I'm going to go with Harvey over Woody, but would I go Devonta Smith? I'd probably go with Harvey for now. But again, I will say this, like, I can help you as best as I can when it comes to week 14 and 15 right now, but obviously, like, a lot needs to happen in between now and then for me to give you, like, a really good answer. Because for me personally, I think that, like, Woody has room to grow, and so does Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith could be a guy that is a locked and loaded player in the playoffs. Like, if they just decide, you know what, screw it. Screw it with A.J. Brown. Screw it with A.J. Brown. We're just going to go full Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith, there's a chance that he doesn't leave my lineup for the playoffs. That's not the way I see it right now, though. The way I see it right now is I would go Ladd and I would go R.J. Harvey in week 14. And in week 15, I would go with Ladd once again. And then R.J. Harvey plays the Packers. Don't love that. And then Woody Marks plays the Cardinals. I would go with Woody probably over R.J., but would I go Devonta Smith over Woody? Devonta Smith plays the Raiders. I'd probably go Devonta Smith and Ladd that week. So that's the way I'm leaning right now. Ladd and Harvey for week 14, and then Ladd and Devonta Smith for week 15. And then you said you also have Stafford and Baker and not sure who to play week 15. Stafford and Baker. Stafford plays the Lions at home. Baker plays the Falcons. I'd probably go with Baker. Probably. But again, it's really like it's hard. It's a little hard for me to tell like completely what you should do this far out. Like, there's a lot of things that can happen in between now and then. So I can't give you like I can't tell you that my answer today is going to be my answer when that time comes. So, you know, I could do my best, and that's what I'm trying to do here. But it's a little hard for me to tell this far out. Again, appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here. The Great. Good to see you back. I have Daniel Jones, but wondering if I should drop and stash Burrow. I am playing Brissett this week. Also, thoughts on stashing Waller this week. You know, I think that in your case, a business decision needs to be made because you don't want to play. I wouldn't want to play Daniel Jones this week. And truth be told, I don't want to play him next week against the Texans. Like, the Texans are the matchup next week, and I think the next 2 weeks for Daniel Jones are rough. So Daniel Jones, to me, I do not view him as a like really good option for the next 2 weeks. So you don't want 3 quarterbacks on your team unless you're in a super flex league, and I'm assuming you're not. So for me personally, I'm okay with doing this because Burrow does provide the longer term upside that I don't think that Daniel Jones does. Like I've said, I'm worried about Burrow this week for sure, but I'm not worried enough to the point where I wouldn't pick him up because, again, it's about value. Like, value is what he has, and at the very least, if your trade deadline is already passed and all you can do is play keep away, that's one of the best things you could do right now in fantasy to help your playoff team. So, yeah, I would personally be willing to do this. Thoughts on stashing Darren Waller this week? I don't think it's really worth it, man. I think that Darren Waller, I was asked about this. I was asked about this a little while back with Darren Waller, and my whole theory was that, like, so I had Darren Waller for a brief period of time on one of my fantasy teams this year, and I traded him away because I always viewed him as a rental piece, and I traded him to get Ladd. Now, it wasn't just him. I traded Marvin and him to get Ladd, and I'm happy with that trade because I always viewed Darren Waller as just like a throw-in piece that had name value. So, like, Waller to me is a guy that if he does come back, like, yes, there's upside, but I mean, even when he was back, he was constantly dealing with injuries every single week. He was never healthy. So, I mean, it's a player who came out of retirement in his mid-30s and looks like a dominant player still when he's able to get the opportunity, but the guy's injured all the time. So, unless you have like an open roster spot, I'm not dropping anyone valuable for Darren Waller. Appreciate the super chat. RJ Bacani, appreciate the super chat. Not the craziest question, but kickers have literally won me weeks. Same with everybody else. Whether people know it or not, kickers win you weeks. Like, that's the importance of kickers in defense. Like, now people who come to my channel, you know the importance of kickers. We go through it every week. But whether you know it or not, kickers are extremely important. Drop Boswell for Fairbairn, hoping he goes off tonight. 8-3 and need a big W. Yeah, I don't have a problem with doing that. I think Fairbairn is better long season. So I don't have a problem with dropping Boswell. You know what's interesting? I've noticed a lot of people this week dropping Boswell. Like both in the community and also like in my personal leagues. It's been weird because Boswell's not bad. I mean, Boswell's still a great kicker. Like I think it's just kind of a weird week. Maybe a lot of people saw Fairbairn on their waiver wire and they just did that. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Boswell's great, but I would prefer Fairbairn the rest of the season as well. But yeah, just to be clear, kickers win everybody weeks. Like, whether you know it or not, kickers can set you apart. Same with defenses. It's just that my community that we've built collectively is aware of that because we talk about it every single week. Appreciate the super chat, man. Michael Merowitz, good to see you again. Drop Emmanuel Wilson or Watson for Schultz. I probably wouldn't drop either. Again, it feels like we don't want to be reckless with your team, Michael, because you have a really well-built team, and Watson has long-term upside. Wilson potentially has long-term upside, and look, your team, as you showed me yesterday, is so stacked. I guarantee you didn't show me, like I didn't get to see the rest of your league. I guarantee you the rest of your league is not like that. You know what I mean? Like the rest of your league is not just like sitting good flex options left and right. Like your entire bench is like flexible guys. Like not many teams have that. And I get it. It is an 8-man league that you were in. But like you have so many valuable options that other people would kill to have. Like think about if you didn't have Josh Jacobs and you just got Emmanuel Wilson. That guy would be like, he would be killing to have that. So, yeah, man, I think that Emmanuel Wilson is a guy that has potential long-term value. We just don't know enough about this Josh Jacobs injury. And Watson definitely has long-term potential. I feel like Schultz, just picking him up to start in 1 week is a little reckless. Now, I'm not saying that Schultz can't be started in future weeks, but it doesn't feel like the right move for your team. Appreciate the super chat, man. Okay, let's get back up to the top. Oblit, what's going on? Woody Marks or Michael Wilson in full PPR? I'd go Michael Wilson. Yeah, that's a commonly asked question. We've gotten like 3 questions about that tonight. Yeah, I'll go Michael Wilson. Double D, what's going on? PPR flex, Chase Brown, Devonta Smith, Breece Hall, Tet McMillan. You're starting Rico. I'll go with Chase Brown. Actually, Chase Brown and Ted are really close. Ted has a good matchup this week. He really does. Chase Brown, Ted. Let's put it into the comparison feature on the site. Ted outranks Chase Brown by 5 spots for me, and he's also most efficient with his targets and touches. I'll stick with my rankings. I'll go with Ted. Daniel Medina, good to see you back here. Start E-Man Wilson or Jacobs. You think he's playing? I don't think he's playing, no. I doubt it. What's the practice report update today, though? I did not get that. Josh Jacobs. Back at practice today. He was on the field going through drills. So, yeah, I still don't think he's going to play. To me, like, going through drills doesn't really mean much unless you're doing team exercise. Like, Burrow practicing an 11 on 11, that means a lot. Like, that definitely is a very, very important factor that you cannot overlook. Jacobs looks like he was just doing individual drills today. And whatever, like he does not look like he's ready to suit up this week. So I don't think you're going to have a choice. Either way, you don't have a choice. Because obviously if Jacobs plays, you play Jacobs. But if Jacobs doesn't play, Wilson's a good play in a lot of circumstances. Now, I found myself this week going a lot against Emmanuel Wilson. But that's only because he's lined up with guys that I just think are better plays this week. Appreciate the super chat. Jeremy Estrada, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Drop Trey Benson, Christian Watson, Jacoby Myers, or Xavier Worthy. You know, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but again, we just got to give it the straight truth. I would drop Worthy. I've said it for a long time. I don't think Worthy is healthy, and I don't think he has been the entire year. And it's not getting better. I mean, every single week he's like limited with an ankle injury. Maybe his shoulder is ready. Like maybe his shoulder is good, right? I don't think he's gotten past the ankle injury though. And he got that ankle injury earlier in the year. And I don't think he's been the same since. So I think Worthy, like out of all these guys, I see more value. Watson long-term has value and he's got more upside. Benson definitely has more value in upside. And Myers is close, but I would still prefer Myers because let's say BTJ misses again and he develops a chemistry with Trevor Lawrence that can't be taken away. I can see more upside with Myers in the future than I can with Worthy. So I would personally drop Worthy. And I know it's very unpopular to say something like that, but that's the way chips fall for me. Appreciate the super chat. Let's go through as many as we can in the next like 2 to 3 minutes because we're running up close. Cook or Kyron? I would personally go with James Cook tonight. Start 3 out of 4. Woody Marks, Ashton Genty, Chase Brown, Travion Henderson. I'll go with Travion. I'll go with Chase Brown. And I'll go with Ashton Genty. Warren outdoors, Jawan Johnson or Schultz. I will go with Dalton Schultz. Pick one, Dobbs, Boutte, Godwin, Shakir. I will personally go ahead and go with I'll go with Romeo Dobbs. Him and Boutte are relatively close, but I'll go Dobbs. Should I trade Luther Burden for Chris Godwin? I'd actually hold. I think that Godwin has minimal upside moving forward. I really don't think that he has much. I think best case scenario for Godwin is to come back and be like a wide receiver 3-ish. I could see Luther Burden hitting it really big in the playoffs. He's one of those guys that I view as like a potential playoff primer type of guy who could really pop in the fantasy playoffs. Start 3, A.J. Brown, Schmitty, Devontae, Jalen Warren, Rome Odunze. I would personally go with Devontae. I would go with Rome, and I would go with I'd go with Schmitty over Jalen Warren. Khalil or Dave Montgomery? I'll go Khalil. Would you trade Achane, McBride for Puka and Warren? I think we talked about this last night. I think I'd keep McBride and Achane. I think both players offer huge amounts of upside. Theo Johnson or Dalton Schultz? I would go with Dalton Schultz. Romeo Dobbs or Josh Downs? I'd go Romeo Dobbs. Start Gabe Davis or Shavers? I would go with Shavers. Karma or Tracy? I'm assuming that's Kamara. I'd go Kamara. I'm staying away from Giants options. Henderson or Chase Brown? I would go with Henderson slightly over Chase Brown, but it's close. Flex either one of those guys or Tyler Warren. I'd play Tyler Warren and Travion. Allen or Purdy? I would personally go with Purdy. I'm going gung-ho, sticking to my gut this week. Ordinarily, I would not play anybody over Josh Allen, but this week I will. And if it bites me in the butt tonight, so be it. But that's just me. I'm trusting my gut full stop this week. Sean Jr. McCafferty. Pick one, Eagles or Falcons or Rams. I'll go with the Eagles defense this week. I have Kaimi Fairbairn and Jason Myers. Who do I drop? I would personally drop. They're both really good. I'd personally drop Myers. That's what I would do. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and end it there for the night. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out, and on your way out, go start a Start Sit poll on our site for free. It's completely free to start your own poll, completely free to vote on others, and you'll get live feedback and results from the rest of the community. If you want a full team breakdown from me, you can also do that as well. Just email us at fsrounder.com, and once the payment goes through, I'll break down your team in a live stream. And if you want access to the automatic waiver tool, the comparison feature we discussed here tonight, my rankings on a weekly basis, and the league sync up, that's all for the premium subscription. It's either $5 a month annually or $6 a month monthly. So love you guys. Appreciate y'all being in here. And I will see you guys later tonight for the breakdown after the game. Peace out, guys.